My name is James Holding and I work for FarmLink Research. Our role is to deliver research and extension projects for farmers across the region. Today we're here at James Brady's place, which is near Eurongilly, about 40 minutes northeast of Wagga. We're going to go see a demonstration site, and what that is doing is showcasing some of the key findings that have come out of the farming systems trial work, which has been led by the CSIRO and New South Wales DPI and funded by the GRDC. Today one of the key ones we're looking at is early sown crop varieties, dual purpose crops that are used for grazing and grain production. Some of the benefits that they have are improved water use efficiency, earlier sowing option. If you get the early rainfall, you can sow earlier, and increase profitability. So a lot of the farming systems trial work showed that these dual purpose early sown crops are more profitable than some of the other options, and therefore they create business resilience, especially when we get drier and more variable seasons.
My name's James Brady. We moved here 20 years ago from a sheep and cattle property at Cooma. We've been growing grazing crops for 20 years, along with some spring sown crops. And it would be about 8 or 9 years ago we decided to grow 100% grazing wheat and grazing canola. Primarily function of that is to provide enough winter feed for our lambing ewes to lamb onto, to enable the lambs to be finished by October, November. With the changing rainfall pattern, which appears to be a bit more summer storms with increased February, March rainfall and lesser rainfall in April, May for the traditional winter crop sowing window, we find we're getting more opportunities to sow our grazing crops in mid to late February and early March, which suits our program, which helps our resilience against our autumn and winter lambing flock to ensure we've got plenty of feed. Otherwise we'd have to wait for the rainfall or 3-4 rainfall events to germinate our clovers and pastures, and then you need the follow-up rainfall to continue to grow enough winter feed to lamb onto for the sheep. The current wheat variety at the moment is Illabo, and previous to that was Wedgetail for a long time. Current grazing canola is a bit shorter season than the traditional ones like Eddie Max and 970. The current one is RGT Nizza and Feast, and they're probably 2 weeks shorter season, I suppose, flowering, but you can still sow them in mid to late February and provide feed within 4 to 6 weeks to enable some green feed for pregnant ewes. So one of the main reasons I was convinced to go straight grazing was for many years we'd grow a lot of biomass on our earlier sown winter grain only cereals, and at the end of the harvest window we discovered that the grain yields were often very similar to what our grazing wheats were, and it just enabled us to stick with the one variety and just start sowing and keep sowing, and as long as there's moisture in the ground. So we believe there's not a major difference in grain yields between grazing wheats and grain only wheats, as long as they're sown in the right window and given the required fertiliser and not overgrazed in the last few weeks, which we normally lock up in early to mid-August, depending on how much biomass we have to try and achieve those targets. We're probably very fortunate with our rainfall and longer season compared to a lot of the cropping zone. They'd obviously see a larger difference in grain yields, but I believe ours are very similar. One thing we've learned over the years is you just cannot afford to cut any costs. So it starts with the seed treatment is a must to have, an insecticide seed treatment, the seed dressing, that's paramount if you're going to sow early, I think. Obviously, you need a fair amount of fertiliser, e.g. phosphorus and also nitrogen, to maximise your biomass for your stocking rates, for your profitability. And then your fungicide and weed control program is standard as per your normal grain only crops as well. And also don't overgraze in that July period, which can give you the opportunity to get a graze in early August, or if it's a dry season, you lock it up early to make sure you get enough biomass to meet those targets come flowering time.